Does it take a lot of air and big breaths to play high notes on the trumpet? Answer is no. And the way I'm going to prove that is by breathing out almost completely and attempting to play a high note. Let's see how that goes. Now I ran out of air at the end of that, but I was still able to sustain the note for quite a bit in a decent volume. So the air, even though it was very little, was sufficient to play that note. Now let's quickly talk about the physics involved here. Imagine you're blowing air through a tube at a certain velocity and the tube has a certain area. Then the flow rate, which is the amount of air in cubic meters per second, corresponds to the velocity at which we blow times the area of the tube. In terms of trumpet playing, the velocity is simply how hard we blow, and the area corresponds to the size of our aperture, which we can control. And there's two simple conclusions from this model. One is that if we increase the blow, but we keep the area, so the aperture size the same, we play louder. And on the other hand, if we keep the blow the same, but we reduce the size of the aperture, we play higher, but at a less loud volume. So to put these two things together, if we want to play higher without reducing the volume of sound, we need to both blow harder as well as reduce the size of the aperture. And that's why loud high notes are pretty tough, because you need to achieve both of these things. You need to blow harder, but at the same time make sure that you have some muscles used to keep the size of the aperture in place, keep it from blowing apart. Now, coming back to the original question, as it turns out, the flow rate, or the amount of air that is going through per second, decreases as we ascend. And that is due to the fact that the reduction in size of the aperture that we play with is the most significant part, and this reduces the flow rate. And so as we play higher, there's less volume of air going through the instrument. Now what this means is that there's no reason to take a big breath just to play a high note. In fact, over-breathing can be counterproductive because it can lead to things as excess tension in the system, it can lead to tightness in the throat, and it can lead to lightheadedness when you're sustaining a long note and you don't know where to go with the air because only a tiny amount for a high note can go into the instrument.